Hollis, and this is my podcast, Speak Up. Shout out to my new listeners out there. For those of you that don't know, the mission statement for this podcast is we'll use our voices to motivate people to overcome life challenges through self love and respect. This is a place for self love and respect. If you're out there listening, please like, subscribe, tell your friends about SpeakUpJV. I have a lot of cool topics that I talk about on here. Glad to be back with another episode. August has been going great for me so far. Hope you guys are all having a great August and a great rest of your summer. Summer is actually coming to an end. I cannot believe it. I actually wanted to slow down a little bit. I'm actually enjoying like the warm weather and like swimming and things like that. So I usually had to put this hair in some braids because this heat has not been no joke. But y'all, I'm excited for today's episode. Today's episode is titled "No Thank You." So today I'm going to be talking about people pleasing. This is a really big one, and this episode is coming as a retired people pleaser. So I feel like I have a different perspective on it now and how I see it, and like looking back and reflecting on when I used to be like a big people pleaser. So I'm excited to actually talk about this. I think it is important to self reflect. Think about what you've learned. Especially when you stop doing a bad habit or something that wasn't good to your self love and inner peace. So I'm excited. So let's get into the ask up question of the day. Those of you out there listening, please comment. Always go back and read the comments. So today's ask up question is, what has helped you stop people pleasing? Um, Something that has helped me stop people pleasing is learning how to say no. That was a big one. I had a hard time saying no. I felt like I had to be there for everybody, even if it meant like cutting off my time or things that I had to do, jumping for people, and I think moving so fast, like to be there for somebody. Like I've been learning the importance of pausing, slowing down, reflecting on, do I have the capacity to be there for somebody, versus like just, setting myself aside to be there for somebody else. So that is something that's helped me stop people pleasing. Oh, and I want to add on something else. I think too, the way I felt after. There's been times like obviously I was in my people pleasing stage, and I learned that when you people please, it doesn't make a person value you anymore. It doesn't make a person respect you anymore. You won't even if it's like a way to seek love from a person, it doesn't make a person love you more. And I think being in a space like that where I was people pleasing, and let's say I didn't get the results from the person I wanted, that I wanted to get, like more of like, oh, why doesn't this person like me or this and that, maybe reflect like, it's not about that, so I think that's one thing that has helped me. But yeah, go ahead and comment. I would love to hear how you guys have stopped people pleasing or something that has helped you along the way. So let's get into it. So the importance of letting go of people pleasing. So yeah, people pleasing. Actually, before we get into that, let's start with like what is people pleasing. So this is like a little definition I got off Google, but according to Google, is people pleasing is a behavioral pattern where a person is constantly prioritizes the needs and wishes and feelings of others above their own. So this is a really big one, So yeah, we're putting other people first. And don't get me wrong, of course, when it comes to loved ones, especially if you're a parent and things like that, there are instances where yes, it's acceptable to put people above you, especially if you're like a natural giver and things like that. But I think it becomes people pleasing when it becomes an issue where, you're slowing down the love on yourself. You're not loving yourself anymore. You're forgetting who you are. You're doing everything solely for other people. And I think that's when it becomes an issue. Or you're doing it to get people to like you or to getting people to value you. I think that's when it comes, when ultimately people pleasing hurts you the most at the end, especially when it's somebody who's not appreciative of the things that you're doing. And I think too with people pleasing, it's good to look into our love languages, right? So we have different things that we like to do. Like some people are gift givers, some people are words of affirmation, some people are acts of service type of people, quality time. And I think whatever our love language is, I think that's where that people pleasing side could come out. So yeah, if you're a person that likes to get gifts, you might be that person that's constantly like buying things for people all the time, right? Expecting like certain love in return, and you're not getting it back. Or like your birthday comes, there's no gifts coming your way. Or quality time, you're giving up all your time, jumping for people, always at their events, always being there for people, supporting them, even tapping into your own personal time to be there. Words of affirmation, you're hyping people up, that's the way of people pleasing. You don't pour in, but you're not giving it back to yourself. And I think, when we look at our gifts, really ask yourself, what is your love language and how has people pleasing took over that? Me personally, my love language, I have a few. Actually, I feel like I really resonate with a lot of them. My Mines are definitely acts of service and words of affirmation. And I feel like that is one thing where, me personally, I love doing things for people, being there for people, showing up, stuff like that. And I also love hyping people up, words of affirmation. And like, so I had to realize too, I'm doing all this pumping people up, being there for people, but was I getting that in return? And I think that's when it jumps in, like, okay, I need to prioritize myself, too, and give that same love to myself. So ask yourself, what is that, So, let's talk about why do people please? It's a big one. It could be like a love. It could be insecurity that's deep rooted. It could be something that started from your childhood. Maybe lack of attention, things like that. Or just feeling like you had to do all these things to keep a person around. And I learned the right people, they're going to be around regardless. It's not about what you do or how you do it. It's like if somebody wants to be in your life, be in your circle, somebody wants to value you or just give you a gift or do something nice for you out of the kindness of their heart, they're just going to do it. It's not going to be about tit for tat where you got me this gift, now I'm going to get you this gift. You did this for me, now I'm going to do this for you. So I definitely learned that the hard way. So I think that's a good way to start when you're trying to figure out like what is your people pleasing or like what's going on. So let's talk about the pros and cons of people pleasing. So when I say pros, I know it's not. I feel like when I say pros with this topic, I think it's the pros that are in disguise. I think the pros that we think we're gonna get from people pleasing. So right, you thinking is getting people to like you, getting love, getting something in return, all those things. I think kind of added feeling a void that you're missing. And yeah, I ain't gonna lie, people pleasing feels good for a second, especially when it's somebody you care about, or you want to like you, or things like that, or you want to get their respect or attention. When you first do the act of people pleasing, in the moment it feels like, okay, I'm doing something. Yeah, that person may give you a little bit of attention in that moment, and it does, but then it's really a lie, because if it's somebody who really doesn't care about you and they're just using you, after a while it wears off, and then you realize, they'll go back to their ways, and you have to kind of keep doing that to keep that person in your face. Now let's talk about the cons. Obviously there's a lot. So I feel like the cons are it doesn't feel that empty void. You're actually left with less than what you had before you started the people pleasing act. It's more you're drained, you're using your energy, you're on E. That's lack of attention and love for yourself that you have to give because you're so busy giving it out to everybody else. And then I think the other kind is disappointment. So I think those are just things that think about when you're ever like in that space where you're like, should I do this for this person? Is it because I really want to, or is it because I think I'm gonna get something in return, or get this person to value me? I think you need to ask yourself that question, especially if you're a person who's like consistently doing stuff for people or being there for somebody, and like you're not feeling that lack of love in return. Because people will take advantage, and some people can see it before you do. That, oh, okay, this person is just trying to get my attention, and they'll use you for that. And you have to be very protective of yourself when it comes to those things. So, you guys, it is now time for the tweet up segment. On Twitter, X, whatever they call it. Something that I tweeted this week that goes with today's episode is constantly neglecting yourself to please others will hurt you at the end of the day. So people pleasing hurts you the most. At the end of the day, it hurt. You think you're doing an act, you think you're being there, and I'm not saying everything you do you have to get something turned. Yes, there's acts of kindness that we do. There's times we give back to people, we donate, we do things, and yeah, you might not get nothing in return. Now, I'm not talking about those acts. I'm talking about where it's adding. You're just constantly people pleasing, and you're like trying to get like something in return. That's where you end up hurting yourself. And I think too, when we constantly say yes, we slowly start saying no to ourselves. There's been times where, let's say I had some free time, right? I use that, right, to be there for somebody else that probably didn't even value me, right? But I'm like, oh, I'm going to show them I'm this and that. I'm a good friend. I'm blah, blah, blah. And that's time I could have spent with myself. That's time I could have made some content. That's time I could have gave to someone who actually valued me, And I think sometimes we get blinded by that. Like, I think sometimes we pay attention to the people who don't really care about us more because it's like there's this need to like get them to like notice us or whatever, versus the people who are in our lives who are constantly showing up. We kind of take that for granted. So ask yourself that, like, am I giving my love to the right people? Does people actually value me, care for me, and appreciate me? I think that's just something deep when it comes to that. And some people take advantage of it, and surround yourself with people who appreciate your nose. So back to the using part. So I think when you're coming out of that stage of like people pleasing, right, it's gonna come with these uncomfortable boundaries, right, that you've never had before. Like I even had to see it with myself when I started like learning how to say no, or no, I can't make it, not jumping for people. I had to be okay with what comes after that. And did this person respect my no? If it's a person who all of a sudden got a problem got an issue with my no, that wasn't a person that was for me, because a real person would appreciate the fact, okay, this person set this boundary in place and I'm still their friend and I still care about them. But if your no makes a relationship end, that person really wasn't with you or down for you in the first place. They were benefiting off, or if you stop getting the phone calls or the invite because you didn't go to one thing, you didn't support them in one way, that's another sign that a person was just using your energy. So I think that's something else we have to put in mind. Like, is this person respecting my nose? And you need to respect your own nose, like, and stand firm on that. And it's hard at first. I'm gonna be real. When you're a recovering people pleaser, I mean, I feel like there's been times I had to make myself put a boundary in place, right? Or do something, and I felt weird about it at first. Like, I'm feeling bad, like, dang, maybe I'm coming off like this. Ooh, no, actually, I should. Da da da. And it's like you kind of go through those withdrawals. And I think when the more you do it, the more you get used to it, and then you feel more happier on the inside. Because guess what? You're picking yourself. You're now tapping into yourself, and versus like somebody who doesn't appreciate you. So let all that sink in. But you guys, it is now time for the life of segment. So this is the life of segment, and this is when I take the topic and I relate it to an issue in today's world. So tonight's life of segment is thinking that people pleasing will make people like and value you, using people pleasing as a way to neglect self care, and not recognizing when a situation only exists because of your effort. So these are three big ones. I kind of touched up on them at the beginning. So thinking people will like and value you. I think that's just a big one. I think it even goes with like social media and things like that. Just you're doing little things and you're thinking like, if I'm there, somebody's gonna like love me better. Even and it goes to even with romance. There's these sayings that when somebody's treating you bad, right? We think, oh, I'm gonna love them harder, and they'll love me back harder. Like, someone's pushing from you, and you're like, no, honestly, that doesn't make somebody love you more, because you're like putting your foot on the gas pedal more onto them. I think if it's not reciprocated, it's not mutual, that's not something you should be even pursuing or trying to put in. So I feel like it goes with the whole romantic thing, but I think this goes as a general, like, this could be in the professional world, even with networking. I've had to learn that the hard way. It's like, just because you're jumping for somebody, you're in networking space trying to show somebody you will be great value to whatever they got going on, doesn't mean they will want you on their team or things like that. So I think that's things you have to soak in as well. Like, if somebody wants you in their circle, wants you around, they're going to put the effort in as well. But it's going to be mutual both ways. I think, when you push yourself too hard or do something, now standing out and being extra are two different things. So it's like just knowing to do the two. And the other one is using people pleasing as a way to neglect self care. So I think this is a big one too. I think sometimes, like, when we don't want to sit with ourselves, it's easier, right, to love on somebody else or be there for them. And we kind of start neglecting ourselves because it's probably a hard conversation with ourselves we don't want to have, or something within ourselves we don't want to deal with. So it's easier to show up for people, jump for them, be there, and ignore you. And the more I've been like loving on myself, more I've been learning that it is important for me to give myself the attention that I deserve, and then everybody else comes next. Because guess what? I'll have more to give. I'll have a fuller cup to give and to pour out, versus me neglecting myself and then giving people crumbs, especially the people who deserve parts of me. And then the last one is not recognizing when a situation only exists because of your efforts. This is a big one. I had to learn this within friendships. There are a lot of like friendships I had in my life, and I look back, I'm like, if I stopped calling, my phone didn't ring. They weren't calling me. They weren't checking on me. The last few hangouts, whatever, 10 hangouts, it was really because I set it up or I had something going on or this or that. And you have to like ask yourself, like, is this a situation that's happening? I know we're adults and we go, we're busier now. People have children, people are married, people are chasing their career, pursuing their career. I'm not talking about like this, that natural busyness that comes with being an adult. But I'm talking about, yeah, you are literally the only person putting in the effort. Or like, if you really were just to disappear off this earth, would that person care? Would they checking on you? And I think that's a part of people pleasing too. I think that's the biggest slap in the face when you're recovering people pleaser, is when you're like, okay, I'm gonna pull back and see what happens. And then when nothing happens, you like, dang, I was the main person keeping this together, like whatever it was. And I had to learn that. And that's okay. People grow apart. It doesn't mean it's a beef, doesn't mean we have an issue with each other, but it's just like kind of like knowing your lane and knowing like what's for you. So I think that's something you need to ask yourself too. Like, is this only existing because I'm the one? I've been learning the power of stepping back, letting things just fall into place, see if somebody checks on me and reciprocate, because that allows the person to show that they miss you, to want to check in on you as well, want to do a nice favor for you, check on your mental health as well. We don't have to do everything all the time. And I learned that's the beauty of that with any relationship. It should be a mutual thing. It should be you guys both cross checking and things like that. And if it ends because of that, hey, that's okay as well. But at least you know the truth and you're not wasting your time and energy trying to convince somebody like to be in your life. Or some people will stay for the benefits. They know, like, yeah, they'll probably, like, you could call them right now. They'll hang with you because they know, you go to the best parties. You have, the most invitations, to bring them as a plus one and things like that. They'll benefit off your energy and what you bring to the table. They know you're a good friend. They'll probably still send you an invite if they got um a big event going because they know you'll show up. They know you'll support. They know you'll bring a gift, and you have to look out for that as well because not everybody's in your circle really like cares. So that's something else I wanted to throw in. So, how do we fix this? So I would say let people do for you as well, as I just mentioned. Practice saying no. So that's a big one. If something really don't work for you, learn how to say no. And I feel like the real people will respect it, or they'll, and I learned this too. People ain't got a problem saying no to you. I can't tell you how many times I've been told no because someone wanted to prioritize whether it was themselves or significant other or the things they had going on. But I learned people will set that boundary with you. So why are we scared to set a boundary when it comes to us? So ask yourself that. And taking a step back, which I just mentioned, it's so much power in just doing this. I've been learning, like, you know what? Take a step back. Just take a step back. It's okay to do that sometimes. And I feel like that'll allow a person to show you how they feel about you without your effort kind of getting in the way of it and making it seem like they want to be in your life when they really don't. They're just benefiting off of you. Then the other one is figure out what is causing you to people please. So, like I mentioned earlier in this episode, we all have different reasons. Like I said, it could be from your childhood, it could be insecurity, it could be just something you're going through, a chapter in your life. And I think when we get to the root of that, it kind of helps us like move differently and know where it's coming from. So I know a lot of my stuff had to come from my childhood as well. Things I've been through, little stuff like that, insecurities I had growing up. But as I'm growing into myself, it's like, okay, that's something I can totally let go and move forward with. But you guys, it is now time for the drink up water segment. If you're out there listening, please pull out some water and drink some water. And I have a drink up water fact for today. So today's drink up water fact is water helps the kidneys to remove waste from your blood in the form of urine, according to the National Kidney Foundation. Please drink water. It just helps you replenish. It gets your kidneys working, doing what it needs to do. It's just so good for you. And like y'all, it's summertime, it's hot. Drink your water. So that was a nice little water fact today. Please take care of your kidneys. So yeah, it's back to the episode. So think about how you can please yourself. I think that's something we need, especially when you're a person who has a hard time doing for yourself. Think about, sit down, write down things that you actually like for people to do to you, right? Do for you. How can you do that for yourself? Little things or things that you like to do for people. How can you somehow pour that back into you? Write yourself a love letter. Buy yourself a nice gift. Spend some time with yourself. Take yourself out. Say nice things to you. I think those things that we do for others, do it for yourself as well, and I think that kind of helps you. And then I feel like when someone's not matching what you're already doing for yourself, it's going to be easier for you to not give them your attention. So if you're neglecting your self care, self love, right, it's going to be easy for you to deal with people who ain't taking your self care, self love serious because you don't even do it for yourself. So you're not going to notice that this person is saying that nice to you. This person never gets you, never does anything for you, never invites you nowhere, none of that. When you're doing it for yourself, it's like, you just know how to treat yourself and feel good. And it's like you're going to want that same love around you in general, in some type of way or form. So that's just something to ask yourself. And the love you want to give others, give it to yourself as well. So I think that's just a big one that comes to self care and self love. I'm such a big advocate for self love and self care because our relationship with ourselves is a long relationship, literally. So you have to make sure you're taking care of yourself within that. We're dealing with people. People are so temporary compared to the relationship that we have with us. You're always going to be with you, but people come and go in your life. So that's something I want to throw in there. But you guys, it is now time for the show up segment. This is the show up segment. So, how did I show up for myself this week? I want you guys to answer. How did you show up for yourself this week? Always go back and read the comments. So, how did I show up for myself this week? I showed up for myself this week. I spent time with family. It was just nice to just take a pause, like from my busy life, whoopty whoop, and just spend time with family. Family's very important, and I think it's just good to give them time. I feel like that's self love as well is giving time to your family, your loved ones, the people that watched you grow up, that helped you, your village. I think we're so busy, we're on the go, things like that, and it's easy to like kind of push family to the side. So for me personally, it just felt good to have like mindful family time, not thinking about nothing else but family. So that was my way. But you guys, yeah, please comment. I always go back and read the comments. I love when you guys share, how you guys showed up for yourself. But back to the episode. So make sure you are showing up for yourself like you do others. So yeah, speaking of showing up for yourself, I like this segment because it kind of reminds me to show up for myself, because it's like I'm putting myself in a hot seat by answering that question, putting you guys on the hot seat by answering the question. So it's like we're quick, right? We hear somebody's doing something, we jump up, we go, but make sure you're giving yourself that same energy as well. I think that is just like mostly important. And that's just the way it works, and people respect you more when you show up for yourself. So people can see it. And like I said, that's how some people who actually are looking to take advantage of people, who aren't loving on themselves, you know it's easy for them to like not respect you. They're like, oh, this person's always going to be there. Da, da, da. When people know they can just call you whenever, they don't have to do anything in return, that respect slowly dies down. But I feel like when you carry yourself a certain way, people could see on you that you love yourself. It's harder for them to play in your face. So that's just one thing I want to throw out there with that as well. And you guys, but it is now time for the wrap up segment. So how does this relate to self-love? Self-love is loving yourself enough to stop people pleasing, to please yourself. It's so easy to give to others, do this and that, and not say no to others. But self-love is being able to say no to others and to stop the cycle of people pleasing. So that's just something that's like the main theme of this episode I want you guys to gravitate to. And remember, you can still be a good person without people pleasing. So I think sometimes, like, you're a really good person, you have a genuine big heart, you feel bad, when you're like, oh, I can't be there for this person. It's not. I remember like when I first stopped people pleasing, I would just feel so like horrible, like, oh my goodness, I really want to do this for this person. Da, da, da. And it's like, no, I'm still me. I'm still a good, loving person. I'm still genuine, but with a little bit of boundaries, a little bit of edge to me. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think you're still a great person. You're still loving, and you deserve that love in return. I think that's something that we have to just like tell ourselves. And remember, put boundaries in place that work for you. So you know your life, you know what you're going through, and you know what you need. So putting those boundaries in place would definitely help with that. And learn to say no to others and yes to yourself. So I'm not saying always say no to others, but like I said, when it costs the expense of you not being able to say yes to yourself, especially in something important, you know what to do. So that's just something I want to throw out there, something to resonate with you guys for the rest of this week. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in to SpeakUpJV. Make sure you follow SpeakUpJV on Instagram. It's on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Podbean. To all your friends about SpeakUpJV. My personal is at Vernisa. I love you guys. I will be back soon, hopefully with a guest. I will get that going for y'all. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your August. I will be back soon. Love y'all.